Welcome to Resilience in Life and Leadership with your host, Stephanie Olson, speaker, author, addiction, sexual violence, and resiliency expert. Hello and welcome to Resilience in Life and Leadership, and I am here to welcome Dr. Stephan Neff to my show, who I consider now a friend after spending podcasts with him between his and mine. Dr. Stephan Neff is passionate about demystifying mental health problems and helping the people around him live a life so full of joy that yesterday is jealous of today. Born in Germany, Stephan has studied medicine at the prestigious Heidelberg University before traveling and working around the globe. Nowadays, he has settled down as a doctor in beautiful New Zealand and has become a best-selling author and advocate for mental health and addiction. He is uniquely qualified in this role. After all, a lifetime of trauma led Stephan to drown his sorrows only to find that the critters can swim. As an alcoholic in recovery, he has experienced addiction and mental health problems firsthand. After successful rehabilitation, Stephan is now an expert in living a life so fantastic that alcohol is simply no role to play. He shares his passion through his podcast, YouTube channel, and other social media, all titled My Steps to Sobriety. In his book, My Steps to Sobriety, he shares the lessons he has learned as a doctor and as a man. And the truth is simple. The past does not equal the future. Every alcoholic can turn his life around one little decision at a time. And this book shows how to do it. And we welcome Dr. Stephan Neff. Hello and welcome to Resilience in Life and Leadership. I am so excited because I am here with Stephan Neff, and I consider you my friend at this point. I had the wonderful opportunity to be on your podcast, and now I am thrilled that you are joining mine. So welcome, Stephan.
Oh, it's an absolute honor. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and I hope I can help you in your mission to make this life a little bit better out there, one interview at a time. So I'm honored to be part of that.
I love that. I love that. Now, you have a podcast called My Steps to Sobriety. Tell us a little bit about how your journey began and how it got you to doing what you're doing now.
Well, born in '66, I lived in my youth in Germany in the '80s, and there was, the degree of psychology input I had was basically watching Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon, watching Bruce Willis. These were all the anti-heroes that I identified with. Yeah. So basically,
good
it
stuff,
was
right? Yeah.
Well, exactly. Damn it, the best Christmas film is Die Hard. Okay, so please let's be clear about that. But I think the reality is that from the word go, alcohol was part and parcel of the society in Germany, and it is an integral part, and everything is sort of linked and weaved around the alcohol. Interestingly enough, alcohol did actually not come into my life much later, but first came the trauma, and first came an assault, a gang assault that I was the victim of, which then turned, and that was early teenager years, which then turned me quite dark. I brought the ringleader behind bars. He threatened revenge, and I thought, okay, I've got 3 years whilst he's behind bars to get my shit together to turn from a little bit of a pudgy teenager into this Bruce Lee fighting machine.
Wow.
And I did. And it was an interesting journey, but it was a very dark journey. So physically, I turned lean and it was cool. But I was constantly on the lookout. Right. And nowadays, it was blatantly obvious. It was PTSD. Then no one gave a damn about it.
No one talked about it, really.
Correct. So therefore, I never had any psychological help, neither from my parents, who didn't know better, nor from the system, which hadn't had anything in place to help me, nor by myself. This was before self-help books really became big out there. I was basically left to my own devices, and in my logical brain was, okay, you're going to be a fighter, so work like one, so 4 hours training a day, and then school, and so on. that was all quite nice, but it was a darkness that had surrounded me. And then I was finished at school, started university, and suddenly I discovered girls and I discovered partying. And I suddenly realized that when I have a drink, I can actually relax. And it was such a beautiful feeling. I could forget the trauma. I could forget the pain. I could actually let go. And that was beautiful. Oh, I loved it. So, and alcohol became my new friend. And I had a truly good social life. And I did what young men do when they're let loose out of the supervision of mommy and daddy. And there were lots of girls who were out of the supervision of their mummies and daddies.
Yes.
We had a very beautiful, good times. And yep. So, and alcohol became part and parcel of that life. And it was nice. So there was a time when alcohol was truly a friend of mine, and it helped me to come out of my shell, to stop the shyness, to stop to really disinhibit myself,
Right.
so that I can finally be the person maybe who I wanted to be. And it was beautiful. So I must admit that. But life doesn't just give you roses and beautiful, funny times. It gives you also more trauma, and I maybe had more than my fair share. So maybe not surprisingly, over the years, I relied more and more on alcohol, because ultimately I had not learned how to deal with negative emotions. I had not learned to recognize depression in myself, anxiety attacks, those kind of things. I had never been taught the principles of integrity, humility. I was a cocky little git. I was, oh God! But that was the survival. That was me.
Absolutely.
I didn't know it better. I had to be the best of the best of the best, and that means laying as many women as I can. That means drinking as hard as I can. That means working as hard as I can. I always had an incredibly hard work ethic. So here I was again. Instead of dealing with problems and trauma, I was working. And working. I distracted myself.
Kind of proving
And
yourself over and over and over again.
absolutely. So as a junior doctor, you do sort of rotations, or so you do your university, and then you become a junior doctor in the hospital system, and you typically work 6 months rotations in, let's say, medicine and surgery, in eye surgery, etc. Now, for all of these six months, I made a principle that I do a scientific publication every 6 months with someone there. And, it was that kind of, not just doing crazy amount of work, but actually taking on more work and constantly proving yourself, constantly having to be the best. And it's a bloody exhausting life. I mean, you're young, you can do it. You work 16-hour days, and then you go out drinking. And that's cool. For a while, that works. Yeah.
For a
Yeah.
lifetime, for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's right. And so, again, trauma upon trauma upon trauma. And then throw some trauma in just for good measure. And it is, my drinking got worse and worse and worse. And that story covers now the better part of 20 years, really, until my early 40s. When this was no longer a love affair with alcohol. It was a very toxic marriage with alcohol that I was in, and it was really it dragged me down. And whilst I never had problems with the law, I never had problems run-ins with police for DUI or something like that. It was still I was working on a suicide in installments. I was just drinking myself stupid. And then, luckily, my wife stood by me. Now, she has got her own story with alcohol. She has got her own story with trauma. She is just as broken as I am. And maybe therefore we had our crazy relationship. We had fantastic love life, and we had the most fantastic wars. I mean, you talk Third World War on steroids. That was our marriage, and it was just How the hell we did not get divorced, I do not know. We somehow survived all that craziness, and we're now fantastic partners. But yeah, bottom line is, I mean, there were many times when I was walking away, she was walking away, and somehow we stayed together. And that was equally when she got dry. She, with the help of her church and her newfound faith, she got her shit together. And whilst she didn't do as much counseling, etc., she still managed to stay sober. And then down the line, I was spiraling out of control, and she was instrumental in getting me admitted to a rehabilitation hospital, and gave me the holiday of a lifetime, so to speak. 28 days, full board, and it was the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing I had ever attempted, because I had to now stop using alcohol as a band-aid.
That's scary.
I had, oh shit, yeah. I had to learn what emotions are, because so far whatever came up I numbed. So now I had to learn, how does it feel like to be sad? How does it feel like to be angry? And to actually look at myself. And this was scary.
It's
And
terrifying.
none of the rehab inmates was in any better place. We all hated the 10 o'clock emotions session, where you sit around and you're not allowed to hide. That's right. You're sitting in this circle and you're not allowed to have anything in your hands, no hat, no sunglasses, no nothing. And the facilitator just said, "Morning, here we are to the emotion session." And then he shut up. And there was this leaden silence. And sooner or later, someone said something. And then someone else said something. And sometimes there were funny things, and sometimes there were fights breaking out. And it was all weird. But we actually experienced emotions. We looked into other people's eyes. They couldn't hide. We saw their emotions. And it was weird. It was weird. As if you're learning how to breathe, how to be a human being again. That was at this basic level. Yet, here was as a doctor. I mean, for Christ's sake, you should think. Well, I know what emotions are, what depression is, what PTSD is. Well, yes, I knew all the criteria, and I was very good in diagnosing it in others. I saw it a mile away that someone was drinking. In the mirror? No. I'm fine. The denial. Oh, denial is such a beautiful thing, and it's the hallmark of addiction. Denial. No. Me? No. Joe down there, he is an alcoholic. Look at him. Me? I'm just a social drinker.
That's right. I don't drink out of a bag. I don't drink under a bridge. I'm good.
Isn't it? Exactly. That's the effect that I have got my Bucks Fizz, or 5 of them in the morning for breakfast. Right. Yeah, that's just because I'm a social butterfly. Yeah, right. But you don't have guests around. Oh, that doesn't matter. I still. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I said that. Oh, God. But then again, there are moments. I can, hand on my heart, say, a can of beer saved my life. And that was very early in my medical career in the former East Germany. So the wall had come down. I was working very close to the Polish border. Saturday morning, after a long night shift, I jumped into the train to get back to Berlin. And I was alone. It was the end of the line, basically, where I jumped in. And I had a shit of a night, and I actually had beer with me. I bought myself a beer there. And in the morning, 8 o'clock or so, I sat there and had a beer. And next stop, suddenly doors come open, and there were maybe 8, 10 skinheads came in. So like me, but including the right-wing tattoos and all the comfortable shoes so that you can kick the shit out of someone. Yeah. And they walked in, looked at me, and dotted themselves all around me. So there was no way I could get out. I just looked around, looked back, and started keep drinking my beer. And they all had a beer on them. And it turned out that Saturday, that weekend, there was a meeting of neo-Nazis in Berlin. They were all there to get pissed and beat the shit out of someone and have a good time. And the only reason that they sort of didn't really know what to do is I had this beer in my hand. I said, "What are you doing there?" I said, "I'm a doctor." looked around, and one guy says, "I don't like doctors. Look what they did with my finger." And he basically had punched someone. The finger was, some weird, because he had not looked after it. He probably didn't keep the cast on, etc. I mean, I said, sorry to hear that, mate. But, here's to that. Hopefully, it gets straight again. And I swear to God, without that beer, I would have been now mincemeat somewhere, because they were practicing for the day, warming up, so to speak. Fuck me. So, sometimes you have to say alcohol is good in your life.
There you go.
Just if that however becomes
skinheads.
That's right. See, exactly. Be ready. So I was undercover, so to speak, or I was out of hiding, shall I say? Yeah. But fun aside, that was actually a true story. But I think the reality is we keep forgetting that alcohol serves a purpose for many people out there. And when you then come into rehab, and you suddenly they take away that crutch. Now that's a very wobbly gait you suddenly have without that crutch, and you need to learn to walk again. And that's exactly the brutal thing that happened to me. It is very hard. What happens in rehab, for those of you if you've never been aware of it, the first few days is detox. Because you're typically still on the bloody booze, and or drugs, whatever it is. And the first few days they actually get you through that not very pretty phase. For many people it is the mixture of a nasty bowel infection or gut infection, food poisoning, and of a nasty flu. So you're feeling sick like a dog, vomiting, goosebumps, sweating, your heart races along, your blood pressure's all over the show. You feel like shit. And for some people it can be so extreme that they actually losing awareness of their own consciousness. So for them, they are in their own la-la land, and that's called delirium. And it can be very scary, and it can become a medical emergency. Yeah, right. Therefore, it is so important that when you come off your booze, you come off slowly, and ideally with the help of someone. Because my life, despite the fact that I'm a doctor, you would think I know about nutrition. Again, what you do to your gut with your alcohol intake, it destroys so much. So you need, when you come off the booze, you need vitamins, left, right, and center, especially vitamin B or the B complex. God, you need tons of it, and zinc and selenium and so many other things. That's where doctors and rehab professionals come in to help you to get physically over the physical damage that you have done to your body. And then once you're through that stage, few days, then you are actually ready to take on the trauma inside of you and start laying a new foundation to get you, to let you smell the real world, a world where you don't numb your feelings, where you actually need to learn how to have, for example, sober fun. So in rehab,
which sounds impossible when you start that, right? Oh my God!
Exactly. Yeah. And it's cool because it was mandatory for us. Every Tuesday we would go bowling. Like it or lump it, it was forbidden for you to stay home.
Great idea.
And yeah, exactly. So, and they basically forced us to go out and to actually socialize in a setting where there is no alcohol, and it was actually really, really cool. And if you were the best in that evening, you got a T-shirt and things like that. It was actually bloody good fun. But idea. Yeah, isn't it? But these kind of things were in rehab were not. Whilst it was mandatory on the Tuesday night, everything else was a privilege that you had to work for. So, for example, the first 2 weeks you are locked in. You are not allowed to leave the premises. Because inevitably you're such a wounded animal, you very quickly would relapse. That's so many people do that. Then thereafter you are allowed maybe on a shopping trip, supervised, and that's so bizarre. Again, I'm a doctor, I'm a judge, I'm a policeman, I'm an engineer, I'm a nurse. I'm a grown-up. I ran my family. I have got 3 children that I brought up. And now you're telling me what to do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And there was a damn good reason for it. Because if you had gotten your shit together beforehand, then you wouldn't be in the mess that you're in.
Right.
So, so they put you, they humble you. And not necessarily in a military style where they break everything down that was you and create the new fighting machine. No, they break all the bullshit down and then see what actually is in there. Try to encourage the good things, the integrity, the humility, and get rid of the bad things, the selfishness, the other kind of negative emotions. Help you to get rid of those emotions and core beliefs that are so self-destructive. The guilt, the shame, those kind of negative things that just the wrong questions. Why me? Why me? Guess what? Your brain will give you answers.
Yeah.
And it's really good in that. Because that's what your brain does. It is designed for you to get the answer immediately. Right. So whatever you say or whatever you ask the brain, it will come up with an answer. So if you say, why does it always happen to me? It will say, okay, it does always happens to him. It takes that as a statement, then it tries to find reasons why that is the case. And it will come back with shitloads.
That's right.
And that's our stinking thinking, our bad. And that's what you need to learn in any kind of improvement, self-love program, 12 steps, whatever it is that you're dealing in life. You need to figure out, why are you actually in the mess that you are in? And that's bloody hell, that's the rabbit warren. That's the Pandora's box that you open up in recovery. Because there are many reasons, many of them go back to your childhood, and it will be a challenge for you to explore that.
It's hard work.
And no quick fix. Yep. Sorry for all of you out there who are now used to the self-service, to the drive through everything. I want it now. Yes. I'm sorry.
This one doesn't work that way.
No, trauma comes in layers. Healing comes in layers. So therefore, your onion parallel, you have to take one layer of the onion apart, and then you find a bit of a rather smelly bit of the onion. I have to deal with that. Now next layer, oh shit, another bit of smelly. And it's amazing how many smelly things you can find in your life.
It's amazing.
Isn't it? I didn't have to dig deep, but the more I kept digging, the more I found. It is just, come on. But it is what it is. It is what it is. We are full of trauma. And when we say trauma, everyone has sort of their own immediate vision of trauma. Let's be quite clear. This is not a pissing contest. Right. Trauma can mean so many different things for so many different people. Right. For some, it is neglect as a child, where you had to be seen, not heard. For others, it is the most brutal trauma, such as rape as a child or as a young adult. For others, it is war-like situations. Yeah. For others, it is just a constant level of toxic behavior that has hit them in their life, and it seemed never to go away. And unfortunately, there are too many stories out there where victims of childhood abuse then become victims of ongoing abuse in adulthood, because the patterns keep re-emerging. There's too many of that stories around. But it is what it is. And these are the things that you start discovering in recovery. So rehab is the start of your recovery. Recovery is the process of creating a new life by taking small but constant steps in the right direction, so that one day you end up in a life where yesterday becomes jealous of today, because you know that today is a new day. Right. And right now I'm exposing myself to a mental rectoscopy by you. That's not necessarily very pleasant, may I say. For many people, public speaking is one of the biggest tortures you could do. So there you go. So, but here I have found my voice. I'm actually coming out. I'm actually, yeah, it is very similar to actually really opening up the windows and letting light into that dungeon that is the life for many people. And the moment you start airing it out, suddenly the stink disappears because you're actually taking steps to clean up this mess.
Yeah,
And
it's hard.
whilst I'm full of trauma, that trauma doesn't define me. That
Yes.
trauma is not me.
Yes.
That has happened to me in the past. There's nothing I can do about that. But I have got now the privilege to turn my story into a story of hope for others. And that's
Absolutely.
that's my superpower. Therefore, I am now. It is no spider was involved in biting me. No vat of radioactive material was harmed in the making of this superhero. But here I am. Um, uh, it is. I'm proud of who I am. Every single bloody scar, every single bloody line around my eyes, that came with a price, and I'm proud of that. And that is so different from the man 8 years ago that was sort of came into rehab. Fuck.
Wow.
I had, yeah, no, this was crazy times, and the transformation that I was allowed to have, and that I worked on so hard, is beautiful. And when I say work hard, not negative, not in a
Nope.
sense of self-flagellation. No, I just like when you fly an aeroplane, you fly from point A to point B, so Auckland to Honolulu, let's say, and you know that 99% of the time the aeroplane is actually off course. But that's where either the autopilot or the pilot will readjust the mission, will readjust the course. The wind drifts you a bit there, that's cool, you come a little bit back. And that is what recovery is all about. You look at who do you want to be, and you are not just vaguely, I want to be healthy, I want to be wealthy. No, what does health actually mean for you?
Right.
Oh, I want to lose weight. Okay, tell me, how much would you lose? Oh,
Right.
I don't know. Well, I want to be exactly 100 kilogram, not 137 that I am right now. So I'm putting something there. And then already I say, why do I want to do that? I say, well, I want to lose weight. No, and to lose weight, that's already a negative connotation. To lose something. Well, to lose something is not very nice. You don't want to lose things. So maybe rephrase that into something positive. I want to gain flexibility and fitness. I want to gain a new found love for me working out. I want to gain those kind of things. So
It's good.
so what I did is I had a dream, I created a vision, and now I create a mission
That's
to
great.
get there. And I try to package it up positively. I don't want to die on a diet. I want to create a lifestyle where I eat in such a way that it nourishes me, puts a smile on my face, because I look down and say, wow, this is really healthy, and that looks absolutely bloody gorgeous. As every color under the sun is in my on my salad here. I love it. And, that's good. And from now and then there will also be a cheesecake there, okay?
Yes.
Beautifully dripping in all kind of luscious, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation.
Right.
But most of the time, I will be actually looking out for myself. I will be looking after myself. And that's recovery. You learn how to love yourself. You learn how to accept yourself. And that is powerful. That's addictive.
Yeah.
So that's an addiction I want to have, and I'm
Absolutely.
proud of. Addicted to live a life. And that's
That's so
so
good.
beautiful.
And it feels so freeing when you finally get to that place of sobriety and you think, this feels so good as opposed to what you had been dealing with. And I think that's what is so hard, especially walking into that program or the thought of not, whoops.
I'm
I
very, very pleased that you can't see all of me. Because message to self, close coffee pot before you let it drip into your face.
You don't need to go to the doctor.
No, that was lukewarm coffee. That's fine.
Okay, very good.
It's actually nice and refreshing. I should do that in every show. Oh dear. So you heard about wet t-shirt contests? Yeah. See, in New Zealand...
It's a whole different thing.
That's right. Oh, but back to your show now.
That is funny. That was great. Well, yeah, I have no idea what I was saying. Jeez, that was rarely am I speechless.
So let me yeah, exactly. No, I will not send any pictures to any VIP guys. That you can dream about that. Now, what is important? Look what has happened. I'm on bloody international here podcast, and I poured freaking coffee over me. Can you imagine how I would have responded? The old me, the angry me, the resentful me. Yeah. I would have blushed. I would have been angry. I would have been... I don't know. I would have fallen apart probably. Yeah. And I would have asked, how? Why does that happen to me?
Yeah, why me?
And yeah, exactly. Now, so what has actually occurred? Yeah, I slipped. My coffee was still open. I got a bit of a wet trouser. So what? Yeah. So what? What is that in comparison with the true suffering, the pain that I've gone through? So nowadays, I can actually distinguish from true negativity, true trauma, and what my catastrophizing brain wants to tell me. Yes. So that is the big difference. I now see what truly matters and what doesn't matter whatsoever. Okay, so this is the power. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Yes. That is the Serenity Prayer in a nutshell. But too many of us only pay it lip service. They can maybe recite it, but they don't live it. Yes. That here right now, that was living it. Because what can I do about it? Nothing. Can I actually use it to a positive, to break the ice and make you blush? Hey, that's cool. I'll take it. That's a bonus. And that only happens on Stephanie's show. Yeah, see? So, no, that is actually, this is real life. And because that shit will happen, it's just a matter how you respond to it, how you work with it. And that is a freedom that I cherish. This freedom of being able to choose my reaction. But the only way you can do that is because you have worked on the core beliefs that are deep down there, that are driving you, and maybe driving you to do stupid things. That are, I for sure had somewhere a core belief that told me, oh my God, you're a failure. See? And that core belief would have been reinforced by me pouring coffee over myself. See, you're a failure. You can't even drink. That kind of bullshit. But no, in actual fact, I'm surprised. That voice didn't even come up anywhere. I just had to laugh about myself when it happened. And this was actually beautiful. Yet in the past, that rotten core belief would have come up to play and would have had a field day. Because I would have fed it with all the guilt and shame and those kind of things. And now you have got a choice. Roll with the punches and make the most out of it, and that is a good life.
I love that. Sometimes I find that people do two things with trauma. So they either, because we all have trauma, all of us have some trauma in our lives at some point, but people either, oh my gosh, that never happened to me. I never had anything like that happened. Or they do the opposite. My trauma is so much worse than yours. And either way, it is not just sitting with what it was that you experienced that made you feel whatever feelings those were, because those feelings are sometimes really hard to feel.
Yeah. So true. And that was part and parcel of it. And I think it's the part and parcel of the disease of addiction and of mental health problems, that you catastrophize, and that truly you actually believe it hand on heart, that you are the victim and nothing could be worse than what has occurred to you.
The only one.
When I went into rehab, I had exactly that belief system, and maybe quite rightly so, because I had been done wrong by an institution that I was fighting against, and there were a lot of things that didn't go very well there. It was a very toxic kind of setting, and I was consumed by that. I could not see anything else. And so one day in week 2, my case manager asked me, can you write a letter to that institution, please, and bring it tomorrow to your session, and we can go through it. And I did. So I went out there and I wrote half of the night, and pages after pages after pages. And there I was ready to go, ready the next day, and went in there, and I wanted to go in minute details. And she took the pieces of paper and said, folded them in half and put them to the side, and said, brilliant. So now let's talk about you. And I said, and she said, no, I understand that. Let's talk about you. And I was angry with that woman. I was so angry, and I couldn't actually focus. I can't remember what we talked about in that session. But I was pissed off, and I actually was quite outspoken against her in the next few days. But what she made me do is she said, hey, look, I've got a book for you. Come back tomorrow, I give you that book. And that book was written by a woman who had married a husband from a different culture, and their marriage fell apart. And the husband, out of honor, decided to, in broad daylight, come back to her house, kill all her children in front of her with a knife, and her father, all in front of them in the driveway. And that all happens when you read the book. It happens in the first 15 pages. And there I was, with all the trauma that I had, and I thought, I had nothing on that. And suddenly I realized, wow, maybe I need to put things into perspective. So suddenly my trauma paled in comparison. Now, I strongly disagree with comparing traumas. Mine is bigger than yours.
Right.
Bullshit. No, I hate that. But it gave me the perspective to step back and actually look at my trauma. And then the next thing that you need to do then is to actually step back and say, okay, this trauma has occurred. Did I contribute to that trauma? What was my role in that whole scenario? And that is the step 4 in the 12-step program, where you actually do a really brutal look, a deep inventory of what has occurred in your life.
That's a painful step.
Oh,
really
shit,
is.
yeah. Isn't it? But also, I did that, that was, 8 years ago now. 2 years ago, I started writing my Steps to Sobriety, my book that is out in Amazon. And the first version was actually much darker, and also much darker in the cover. So this is the second edition now. But when I started writing, I wrote one chapter about postnatal depression, because the book is also about the challenges that you will face in life. So I give you action plans that you might actually think about before it even hits you. Depression, anxiety, money problems, all those kind of things. So I had a chapter in there, postnatal depression, and I thought this was actually a really well-written chapter, and I described the postnatal depression of my wife. So I thought it was well written, and I gave it to her to read. Oh boy. Her recollection of her postnatal depression was rather different perspective. Also, the amount of anger that I experienced and I saw in her eyes, that was very clear. There was a lot of trauma that she had not yet dealt with, despite the fact that it is now nearly 20 years ago. There you go. So bottom line is, it is whenever you start working on yourself, you will find one trauma, you deal with it, and you think actually you've dealt with all the traumas, and then suddenly something like that happens. Oh boy, did I have to revisit
Right.
things that I had forgotten, things that I had forgotten from that time, which she held in front of my eyes, and I thought, oh, yeah, my mind didn't really want to remember that part where I was an asshole. In my story, I was the
You were
more or
the
less the
hero.
hero. That's right. I was there to support her,
Right.
you know, and I was.
Yeah.
And her story, she is not lying. I'm not lying, but
Right.
we have got different recollections
That's right.
of that part of our lives. And it is so important when you are in recovery that you start exploring those things. And that is where your power team comes in, because you don't know what you don't know.
That's
So
right.
therefore, you need to talk to people who have been there, who can listen to you what you're saying, but equally listen to what you're not saying, and maybe point you in the right direction. And that is where a good life coach comes in, or a psychologist.
Hmm.
Sometimes you need a psychiatrist because there's so much trauma and so much true mental unwellness, mental illness there.
Yes.
So you need a whole bunch of people to actually help you.
Yeah.
But that is to deal with the past. You then need a whole bunch of people to help you create the future that you want and deserve. And for that, you listen to people like us. So if I get my shit together and Stephanie, she can get her shit together, well, there might still be hope for you, actually,
There
okay?
might be hope.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well,
Life is
and
too
you have
short.
to be humble enough to be able to look at that and receive that, okay,
Yeah,
maybe I'm not there. Yeah. Maybe I'm not perfect yet. Maybe I need some help from other people. And
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But also, do I want to be perfect? Actually,
No.
no, because it means I've stopped. I become stagnant. And for me, it is beautiful to explore, to find new ways, to find new insights.
Right.
I'm a lifelong learner and I want to learn about myself. I I've learned so much already, but I've only just scratched the surface. Let's be serious here. I There is so much more in me waiting to be discovered, uncovered. There's so much energy waiting to be released. Because the moment I take that band-aid off, it might hurt for a moment, but then that is a new kind of pain or feeling, whatever it is, that will drive me forwards.
Yeah.
So it's another little pull on the string of your bow, and sometimes it hurts, and you have to really pull hard, and I get pulled back. But then when it is released, my goodness, where will this arrow go? And that is the amazing thing. I'm looking forward to that. Every single day, something new will push me forward. Right now, sitting here with you, you honor me by letting me share my story, and by sharing my story, I hear it. The moment it is spoken out, it becomes a different kind of truth.
Yeah.
It becomes that kind of more tangible. I can't take that word back.
Yeah.
It is out of hiding. Therefore, it has come out. It has freed me. It is, it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful feeling. It is, yeah, it's a release
Yes.
in the nicest
Yes.
possible way.
That is so
So,
good.
oh,
What are your thoughts? I know our job is not to, you know, well, your job is as a doctor, but my job isn't to diagnose somebody else or tell somebody else, yeah, that
yeah.
may be alcoholism. But what are your thoughts with the recent, with the pandemic and the increase of drinking so much that, I mean, it's almost become comical, oh, I'm day drinking, or the
Mm,
jokes around Zoom
yeah,
meetings and drinking. What are your thoughts
absolutely.
on that?
It's a very slippery slope. It's a very, um, it's very easy to numb yourself because you have got the trauma of abandonment, the trauma of solitary confinement, if you wanted to look at it in a negative way. Um, Therefore, you don't know what to do. And for many people, that is trauma. They have never learned how to deal with their negative emotions. Now they are no longer at a workplace that distracts them. Now they have to come up with the what is the word? The self-control to actually have a structured life, to get up at 8 in the morning or at 7 in the morning, actually do something, get out of bed, have a shower, do the right things, and then actually live a productive day. Now, for many people, that is hard. For some people, it is actually really good that that happens, because many of us are sort of living at a brink of burnout, and then finally actually coming off the hamster wheel, because you can't go to work. Then that can be a blessing in disguise, but you need to realize it for what it is. And if you actually have to spend 1, 2, 3 months on the couch eating junk food and binge watching Netflix, that might actually be just what the doctor ordered. So we need to be careful. We can't bedevil something. So self-control is all quite good, but maybe you have burned the candle too many times on both ends, and it is now time for you literally to crash and burn. And if that is the case, I'm so pleased for you that the pandemic, one way or the other, has given you that silver lining around the cloud. And this might just be what you needed. Having said that, to have a pity party is absolutely okay. And we all have it, and we all should have it. We all should take time out from now and then to feel the negative thoughts. But don't pitch a tent over there, okay? Just visit and then say, okay, cool, thank you for the reminder. Thank you, I did not look after myself. I did not show me the self-love that I needed to stay well. Therefore, I'm paying the price now. So that's okay. That's really, really good. But now it's time for you to actually think, who do you want to be when you grow up? And if you have already a clear vision, then what stops you working on that? If you don't have a clear vision, then it's time to dream. Then it's time for goal setting. Then it's time to say, okay, you're really pissed off with your life right now. You have lost your job. Okay, was that job really what you wanted to do in your life? Or what do you actually want to do? Who are you? Most of us can't answer that. So therefore, the biggest thing that you can do is actually do a targeted dreaming. Try to see what are the roles in your life. And okay, you are a man, a woman, or you're a proud non-gender, non-binary person. That's cool. So you've got a baseline, that's you. What are your roles now? So, okay, you're a father, you're a partner, you're a son, you are a co-worker, etc. A provider. Well, okay, so have a look at each of these roles and figure it out. Well, are you happy with what you're doing in that role? There is that beautiful emotional bank account. So if you're in a relationship with someone, you can't just constantly withdrawing from the bank account, withdrawing and never put anything in. I'm sorry, that will soon, the bank account will say, sorry, you don't get anything from me.
My teenage daughter's learning that with the real bank account world.
All right, yeah, exactly. But the same holds true with any relationship.
That's true, right.
If you actually don't go out of your way and actually put something into that bank account, if you don't do anything, maybe don't be surprised that you're not in a happy marriage, happy relationship. On the flip side, turn that around and say, okay, thank you for the reminder. So what could I do 5 minutes each day, every day, no break, 5 minutes only, where I focus on that relationship? That could mean that one day you wash up, if that was something that you never do, or that you go down there and fold the washing, or that you write that little post-it note and put it somewhere where he or she finds it, and do that every day. Could you imagine that after 30 days, your relationship has changed?
Right.
Probably your partner will think, what the hell? What's going on here? She never does that. But, if you were to put 5 minutes, only 5 minutes into your relationship, would that change?
Right.
If you do now do the same, let's say, with your finances, depending on where you are in life, how bad off you are right now with COVID, you might think, whoa, I'm really struggling to buy a tin of or can of baked beans. Well, that's cool. What can you sell? What can you sell? Do you really need all the junk that is in your garage? Or is there something you can put on eBay or however you want to sell and make a few dollars? Do you really need all the subscriptions to magazines and whatever you have got? Or can you save a few dollars there? 5 minutes, one action point every day.
Yeah.
You can do a bit more, but at least 5 minutes. So do you think after 30 days your finances will look different? I venture a guess and say yes. Okay. So now do that with all those single roles that you have. Your own fitness. Don't go out there and roll for a marathon, idiot. No.
Yeah.
But why don't you actually walk once around the block if you can?
Right.
Or if you can't, then, okay, what can you actually do?
Right.
You know, you've heard about this planking. Well, okay, why don't you try? Why don't you try 2-3 times a day, 10 seconds, and see if that works? And then see, things like that. Never much, but never nothing either.
Right.
And very soon it becomes a habit of you. You actually look forward to doing those 5 minutes. And inevitably the other 5 minutes, you will get more. So these are the options, the opportunities that such a forced reset can give you. The flip side is, of course, you can actually fall into the trap. See, I can let myself go now. I don't need to wash. I can stink because I don't need to see anyone. And I don't really need to do that. I don't need to do that. So you start taking shortcuts on your health, on everything else. And no one cares for a few days if you drink in the morning. It might actually be a nice thing. I mean, make something positive out of it. But then again, do you really want to be in that constant numbness?
Right.
And then in that constant hangover?
Right.
Or anywhere in between? Some of us chose to in the past and choose now. And I guess that's the reason that you and I are having this talk, to actually highlight that and actually say, just hold a mirror in front of people's faces and say, yes, it's a temptation, and for a few days it's okay. Go on a holiday, and some holidays are rather boozy. There's nothing really wrong with that, unless you make so stupid decisions whilst you're drunk that you're coming home with some unwanted guests in somewhere on your body.
Yeah.
Or in your body if you're a girl. Yeah, so not good.
Not good.
Yeah, exactly. So it's up to you guys. I think living with a consciousness and being conscious about the privilege of living, that right now matters, etc. That is the key thing that makes it beautiful for me. So for me to have a few days off is an absolute blessing, because I now don't need to work, and I can work on other things that I want to work on. Yeah. So therefore, if you again rephrase it into something positive, then this can become very powerful. And I already hear some people out there. See, I can hear you from here in New Zealand. You saying, what an asshole, what a dick. Here, I don't know how to feed my family. I will not know if I have got a job. Yeah, that's correct. And how many people my counter is, how many people were exactly in this place, which was so outside of their comfort zone that they actually had to start taking action. And by doing so, they developed a habit of taking action. And they were so much in pain that they actually now moved forward. But they now not just tread water like mad and just wasted energy, but they actually started swimming in one direction. Yeah. Not around a circle or around a circle in the hamster wheel. Right. But actually you went one direction, and you say, well, why can't I be a coach? Why can't I open up my own film studio? Why can't I write a book? Why can't I?
Because we get choices, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I actually asked a stupid question, a series of stupid questions. Why can't I? Well, the brain will tell you why you can't. Yeah. What you should rather ask is, well, how can I?
Yes.
And what stands in my way? I think that's a valid question. Because then you also have to address your own feelings that stand in the way, the imposter syndrome, all those kind of things. But I mean, my steps there, 9, there, steps. No, that's steps. No, that's, oh, for Christ's sake, I'm getting left and right mixed up. Behind me are 2 books. That, oh, for Christ's sake, that one there.
Yes.
So we've got Steps to Sobriety there, which is a book I wrote 2 years ago. Then there's a children's book behind me there, which is The Adventures of Esme the Mindful Mouse. So these are things. Would you have told me that 3 years ago that I would be writing a book about my mental health or the mental health of others? I would have thought, you're kidding me. How stupid are you? Me? Never.
Yeah.
But here I am. And so the question is for you, who do you want to become?
Yeah.
So that is the truest, most important question. What is your why? Why do you want to be that different person? And then the question is, who is this different person?
Right.
Okay? And the moment you ask the right questions and find an accountability partner, you putting things in writing, maybe write a journal and actually write those things down, and suddenly there it is, black and white in front of you.
Yes.
Very powerful. I want to earn $112,000 every year without me having to go to work. Okay, that's a goal.
All right.
Cool. Next question then is, your brain says, okay, well, how can we do that? And guess what? It will come up with ideas. And you might actually ask someone who has done something similar.
Yeah.
And he says, what do you mean 112,000? Why not 12 million? And, oh, okay. I didn't want to think this big. But no, you think big,
Mm-hmm.
Do you want a marriage that is okay?
Yeah.
Or do you want a marriage that is absolutely beautiful, where you can't wait to meet that person after a day at work, or you're going on a run and you come back and you're sweaty and dripping, but you still want to hug this person,
Yeah.
And that is the kind of a thing that is the relationship I want.
Right.
Why settle for, oh yeah, she's okay?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. Do that with every part of your life, and that is exactly. And I'm trying, and I've been very good when it came to my health. I've been very good when it came to my wealth, in my work. What I'm not good is still not good is my weight. So I'm still have got core beliefs that have so far stopped me. I still am an emotional overeater. So if stress hits me, then I fell in the past again and again into the trap of using sugar or high calorie items to actually make me feel good.
Yeah.
Give me that immediate kind of and not listening that my body really needed other things.
Yeah.
So that's my journey. So that is something that where I worked on this year, and I did so by completely changing my core belief. My core belief, my absolute thing that I know to be true, is that there is nothing that will stand in my way of getting into shape this year. There is nothing that will stand in my way. And so therefore that is the core belief that I had really worked hard on, and that now allows me to move forward.
Right.
rather than
Action steps.
exactly rather than the thermostat that wants to go back to the 140 kilogram, because that's what I know,
Right.
what is comfortable. That's the certainty. The certainty is there. My brain knows 140. Yeah, you're a fat bastard, but you know exactly what it is, and that's it. To now actually
Right.
change that. Ooh, change is not good.
Right.
There's no uncertainty. How do we do that? Those kind of things. But that is nature. That is us.
Yeah.
And that is where I get the privilege to learn every day new techniques, get new insights, meet new people that become my mentors, or that give me an insight where I say, hey, yeah, now that you say it that way, how beautiful is that? I love it, love it, love it, love it.
Good. I love that. You are so much fun to talk to, and I love your wisdom. I love your journey. So thank you. So you shared a little bit about your books. Tell us about your podcast.
All right. My Steps to Sobriety is on YouTube as a YouTube channel and as a podcast. I bring on guests who have gone through hell and back and kept going. And I want to learn from them. How did they deal with their trauma, etc.? So I ask a lot of questions behind the addiction. I look at the taboos, at the prejudices on the traumas, the demons that are haunting us. Those are the things that are of interest to me. Yes, of course, there will be other cases where we talk about the alcoholism, where we talk about the way how we have numbed ourselves. Let that be sex, gambling, drugs, alcohol, work, sport, all these kind of things. I bring on people who have gone through incredibly hard times. I have had 2 concentration camp survivors on my show. I had people who have lost absolutely everything and then some. I've had people who had death sentences due to disease, due to nasty traumas, who somehow have survived and now are sharing their stories. So these are all stories of hope.
Yes.
And where people again and again proved to me that my mantra, the past does not equal the future, is absolutely right. So therefore, that is what my show is all about. I'm coming back full circle to where I started off. Initially, there were no interviews. It was me sharing with my story, and it was sort of all a bit it was all about me. And I thought, nah, this is not about me, and this is about others. And I guess to a degree, I started hiding behind my guests. I started hiding behind others' stories. And once I actually then engaged in rewriting Steps to Sobriety and engaged in other projects, other books that I'm currently offering or co-offering, it became clear to me, stop hiding. Stop hiding. You have got a voice, you've got a message. It's time for that to come out. And so therefore I'm coming full circle. So I continue with my beautiful guests, but I'm also doing solo sessions where I just share maybe 5 minutes of something that happened today, how I dealt with it. Maybe I just do the cut out of the coffee.
Yeah,
that would be
that story. That's gonna be a good
exactly. Yes. So, but it is it's that kind of shit where you can actually share and show people, hey, look, it is. Just roll with the punches and move on. Yes, 2 steps back, but there must be 1 step forward. And sometimes it's 2, 3 steps forward in a day. That's cool, take it. And if it's 2 steps back, that's a shit day. Okay, so tomorrow will be a new day.
Right. Oh,
so, guys out there, if you're interested to share your story on my podcast, within all means, have a look at www.mystepstosobriety.com. So that's a good hub where you're going to find that's my website where you're going to find links to the books that I'm looking for co-authors at the moment. For my podcast, there is enrollment forms there for you to become a guest. And so I'm asking you a few questions to be able to get to know you a little bit better. And many, many other things. So it is www.mystepstosobriety.com, all written in one thing. And check it out. And, let's all come together. If you have a story to tell that brings hope and that has changed maybe another person's life already, and you feel, wow, this is actually really beautiful, then let me be of assistance. Let me be another platform where we can increase your voice and the reach of your voice. So yes, we are all there to make this world a little bit better, 1 interview at a time, and it's an amazing journey. So guys, come on board if you want to.
That is fabulous, and it's so healing to tell your story. Yes, it helps other people, but it's amazing how much it helps you as well. And you read my mind. I was going to ask you how people can find you, and you just answered my question. So get out of there. You don't want to be in
it's a bit scary, isn't it?
It really
that
is.
happens. That happens when you're in recovery. That happens when you're together, because it's sort of a brother and sisterhood that develops.
Yep.
We are we all have been bullshitters, and you can't bullshit a bullshitter. Okay, so we know each other. We know how we think.
I love it. Yes, we have a special bond that
isn't it?
Others. Yes, that's so true. So, final question: what does resilience mean to you?
Resilience for me is to accept that there are things out there that I can't change, and that there will be moments of darkness in my life. There will be times when I'm not happy. There will be times when I'm incredibly sad and depressed. There will be times, and I hate it, when toxic people come into my life. I can't do anything about that. But I can choose how I respond to those challenges. Sometimes it's okay to just use consciousness and say, okay, he's really a dick. And, he's going through his own trauma. Okay, I understand it. There are other times when maybe you have to become a different person. That person that you don't really want others to see so much. The survivor. The person who would take a life without blinking in order to let you survive or let your family survive. That's okay. Sometimes these kind of people need to come out to play as well. That is all resilience. Resilience means that you choose how you respond. And if it is a life and death, you choose right and you protect your life. And but also choose to look at an email and say, well, yeah, thank you very much. Your brain tells me that this is life and death, but nah, this email is not life and death. I'm sorry. Nope. There is no immediate threat. So therefore I don't need to go onto the warpath immediately. Right. So that is resilience. Resilience is choosing your action in response to what is coming at you at any moment in your life.
That's good. I love it. Thank you so much, Stephan. It was just so wonderful to talk to you, and your story is brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you've done to really make a difference in other people's lives. So you're doing good stuff.
And likewise, Stephanie, it's an honor for me to be on your show. And let's make this world a little bit better, one action at a time. So if you have any ideas how to collaborate, if you guys out there have got any ideas how to collaborate, get in touch with us. Get in touch with Stephanie, with me, and see just what is happening. Build your own tribe. And who knows, maybe we can help this world. It bloody well needs it at the moment. So
I would not disagree with you on that one. Yes, we need help. Yes. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on Resilience in Life and Leadership. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. Please share with anyone you think will benefit from this podcast.